And that is, of course, what's going to make Africa very important and interesting to the rest of the world in many ways. And of course, if ever back to our very, very first class, we know that the earliest evidence of human beings is from Africa as well. Okay. So how well do we know some of the countries in Africa? Here's a map of Africa, right? So it gives us an idea of kind of where it's located. We know that this is the Middle East, the Arabian Peninsula. Up here is Europe, right? And this is Africa. So Africa is a continent, but there are about 48 or 47 countries on the continent of Africa today. A couple of ones we've studied already, right? We know Egypt, which is right here in North Africa, Sudan, right below it. We're going to talk about one of the Nubian Empire or civilization, which was in the Sudan, Mali over here, and Ghana over here, right? Yeah, go ahead, Lawrence.
I don't think we talk about Sudan.
Well, we're going to talk, what I meant to say is we're going to talk about Sudan today because we're going to talk about the Nubian Empire or the Nubian Kingdom. And it was on the southern end of the Nile River, which runs right into here, which is Sudan today. So we're going to talk a little bit about them today as well. So one of the things we want to look about, and I like this, Ashley, you showed us your little assessment at the beginning. It says compare and contrast. We should be doing that all the time when we study history too. What's similar, what's different, and when we talk about these four major civilizations today, the Mali, the Songhai, the Nubia, and the Ghana, let's talk about what some of the similarities were and what some of the differences were too. So the first civilization that we'll get right into is Ghana, okay? So Ghana developed in West Africa, and it developed between two rivers, the Niger and the Gambia rivers. Is that a shock to anyone in our class that a civilization emerged in between rivers? What other civilizations have we talked about that emerged on or in between rivers? Okay, I think Ashley said Egypt. Lawrence, what were you going to say?
I don't think we talk about any civilizations on water, but I know a city on water. Do you know that, guys? Do you know that one? A city in Italy. It's a city of river.
Which city were you
A
talking about,
city of
Lawrence?
they travel with boats. Can I go just check for a second?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, I mean, Egypt obviously was a civilization that developed, and the Nile River was really important to it, right? Um, we also talked about ancient Indian civilizations emerging on the in between the Indus River Valley, right? So rivers were there. When we talk about China next week, we will talk about some of the rivers that ancient Chinese civilizations developed on. And then probably the one that Lawrence is coming up with is another civilization we've talked about that rivers were really important to. Does Mesopotamia sound familiar? Yeah. And there were two big rivers there, the Tigris and the Euphrates rivers. And in between there, many great civilizations emerged. So no shock that here in Africa, one of the major civilizations to emerge, the Ghana civilization, emerges in between two rivers. So let's remind ourselves, why are rivers so important to the start of and the creation of civilizations? Why all over the world, from China to India? Yeah, Lawrence, what do you think?
I just go check for a second. I saw
I'm sorry, Lawrence, it's hard to hear you. You cut out a little bit there.
there's
Sorry, Lawrence, I still can't hear you. You're a little cut out.
like like but
Yes. I think maybe your internet might be a little unstable because I couldn't hear you. Sorry. So Ghana emerges between these two rivers too. And Lawrence, if you get, yeah, Lawrence is going to try to restart probably with us. Maybe that'll help. Um, so you imagine these two rivers in Africa being super important to the development of this early civilization. And it's here that the kingdom of Ghana begins to grow. And why? What were they using the rivers for? Ashley, do you think that made it so important? Ashley, what do you
I think
think?
it's the same as Egypt. Like they use it for water, for growth, and like to protect like their endangered species from harm.
Hmm. That's right. They used the rivers for water, for their crops and to drink. And one of the really important things here is that they used the river like a highway to trade and to travel. Have you ever been in a car and